The GMTK GameJam is one of the largest game jams in the world. Teams race to make a game in 96 hours that aligns with the theme of the jam. This event has been happening every year since 2017, and this is the first year that I participated in it. But I was 2 days late. It was almost midnight on July 23rd, the end of day 2 of the jam. I was just chilling in bed watching YouTube when the GMTK announcement video pops up on my phone.
You have 96 hours to make a game that fits the following theme.
Countdown is a really fun theme. There's a bunch of places to go with it, and I just kept thinking back to rocket ship blast-offs. I finished playing Outer Wilds this year, and I've had so many different space games I've wanted to make, but it just didn't happen. Would it be crazy to think I could make a game with only half the time? I decided to sleep on it. Yeah, I'm doing it. Recently I started learning how to make Gameboy style games. I'm making an underwater horror game with a friend of mine that goes to art school. He takes game dev classes, and since the classes aren't very programming oriented, they focus on a lot of low code, no code programs. Basically programs that use block code or other methods to make games. I just graduated as a computer science major, so I know how to code, but I still wanted to see what type of game engines they were showing in classes. That's how I learned about GB Studio, a game engine designed specifically for Game Boy style games. I'd been making a practice game for a few days now called Follow Me. You follow a friend into the woods and eventually get lost. It had very basic gameplay and was very much a game for learning rather than playing. Eventually I want to go back and revamp everything to make it a standalone game, but that's not the point of this video. I'd been working on this game for a few days now, and it just so happens I started one day before the GMTK Game Jam started, but the rules are clear. You only make your game during the jam. And also this game had nothing to do with a countdown. It was just in the forest. And it wasn't in outer space. So I made a very brief ending to Follow Me and moved on towards the goal of my new game, which temporarily is just called Countdown. I know it's a very creative name. Brainstorming time. Since the time is so short, teams usually narrow their scope to games with 1 or 2 core mechanics. This is a really great strategy because you get the time to polish what you've made and you can make something that really feels professional and intuitive. I didn't do this. It's a good idea, it really is, but Follow Me was supposed to be a game where I get to learn the ins and outs of GB Studio and I really just get to make something that has a little bit of everything. And I ended it really quickly for the jam, so I missed out on one of the parts I was most excited for. Since I'm using GB Studio, there's a big foundation for gameplay mechanics in all sorts of modes. There's shoot-em-ups and top-down movement and platforming and point-and-click and logo fade scenes and really just all of these pre-polished movement systems that feel really nice. Trying to do something like this in Unity or Godot can be really easy to make, but really difficult to polish. GB Studio gives you a very simple movement system that's easy to work with and built in. So I decided I was going to use every game mode GB Studio had. Editor's note, I think there's one game mode I missed called Adventure Mode, which is a different version of the top-down perspective. But I had the top-down perspective, so listen, close enough, okay? Let me take you through each mode that GB Studio has and how I'm gonna use it in my new game. This is the meat and potatoes of my game. Most story dialogue happens here. You can explore the ship and interact with a lot of the objects, including the nutrient goop. I try to be a little goofy here because my game has some serious stuff going on in the second half, but I still want the game to feel lighthearted and silly. I made a few different rooms in the ship and have a basic story variable that just increments every time you do something for the story, and it just keeps track of what the player's done so far. Something very simple, but just, it works. This is a basic side-scroller shooter mode. The GB Studio template scene literally uses this mode to show a space shoot-'em-up, so it's perfect for what I'm looking for, space travel. In between story beats, the player will travel through an outer space setting. The GB Studio default for this is sideways, but that's not going to cut it. Everybody knows space is up, so I reworked a lot of the movement to work for vertical movement, which didn't take that long. Revamping enemies to be vertical took a little bit longer, but it was still pretty quick. GB Studio is very simple to work with. I made assets for the ship and the space background. Since this is a Game Boy style game, I can only use 4 colors for backgrounds and 3 colors for sprites. I also have to make sure scenes only have a set number of unique tiles, so that means I need to be very specific about how I place my stars in the background. They need to line up in the same orientation within the 8x8 grids to not have a bunch of extra unique tiles, and this is a big learning curve, but luckily Follow Me helped out a lot with learning how to do the art. I'm very new to pixel art, so I'm just happy with how everything turned out. I think it looks pretty good. Once you land on a planet, I want the terrain to feel rough and wild compared to the top-down sections. You actually have to be careful about where you step. I was running out of time, so I didn't tweak the built-in platforming much. I just designed my own short levels for the planet and added a hiding mechanic for the game's chase sequence, which I'll go into that more later. To add some life to the top-down sections, I used a point-and-click scene to view the planet radar. You can see nearby planets and learn a little bit about all of them. I just made a couple basic planets. The top right one's inspired by Dark Bramble from Outer Wilds, and I added some triggers to them in GB Studio. I kind of lied about something. If you've been paying close attention to the video, there's a couple pieces that don't fully add up. I know how to code, so why am I bothering to learn a no-code program when I only have a couple days? And why am I trying to make Game Boy games at all of a sudden? I'm not just making this game for the Game Jam. I am making it for the Game Jam, but I don't want all my work to just get thrown out once I'm done with the jam. I have a larger project in the back of my mind. Glowing Static. I love games that have games inside of them. Duck Season, Inscription, Amanda the Adventurer. All of these games have this really interesting 3D environment that tells a story of its own outside of the other games nested within them. I want to make a trilogy of Game Boy games inside a bedroom with secrets of its own. Something that can give that feeling of staying inside and playing games all night with a little bit of mystery and fear mixed in. The game has an overarching theme of making your choices count. Follow Me is all about blindly following someone else and what can happen when you do that. This Game Jam game should tie into that theme as well. More specifically, I want to talk about what happens if you surround yourself with people who don't value your opinion. I decided to ditch Countdown and call the game Steering the Ship. You play as Henry, an astronaut smuggler who is escaping a space base with his buddy Jacob. Your ship is full of stolen nutrient goop, and the two of you are just trying to find a space to hide out. You use shoot 'em up mode to fly the ship. You navigate inside the ship in the top-down mode. You have detailed interactions with the point and click, and you explore planets with the platformer. So it all ties in nicely together. I want Jacob to feel like a person rather than an antagonist. Henry and Jacob are friends. They're just in a very tense situation. Jacob isn't gonna be super patient while they're actively fleeing from a battalion of ships. Throughout the game, Henry's choices are going to be continuously rejected until the climax of the story. They're deep within a cave, and Jacob wants to go even deeper, but Henry isn't so sure. And then, this happens. An unseen figure is with them. The music cuts out, and they are not alone anymore. There were warning signs, and Henry knew it, but there was so much going on, Jacob was just rushing to find somewhere to hide. Something happens to Jacob, but Henry can't see. That hiding mechanic I was talking about comes into play now. Before, Jacob stopped Henry from hiding, but Jacob's gone now. Henry hides behind walls and slowly crawls his way out of the cave. Henry makes it back to his ship and starts steering towards Celeste, a potentially safer planet away from the beast in the cave. Their planetary pit stop worked. You'll notice there's no more enemy ships in Henry's way, just asteroids as he flies towards a new planet. And when he gets there, the game ends. We don't find out if Henry's safe now. We don't know what the new planet has in store, but Henry is steering the ship. You see what I did with that, with the name? Yeah? Okay, cool, thanks. that is my GMTK GameJam submission. Like any game, there's a million other things I'd add if I had more time, but I'm just glad I got to mess around in GB Studio and learn something new. The program is very beginner friendly and offers many resources to help new users get started. The entire soundtrack of my game was all using GB Studio's template music that they provide users. If you were inspired to make your own Game Boy style game, I highly recommend you check it out. If you want to play the game for yourself, I've attached a link to it in the description. You can play it on the web, so you don't even have to download anything. You can just boot up the link and hit play. The demo for Glowing Static, that trilogy game I was talking about, which will include the updated version of Follow Me, will be up later next month. Please wishlist the game on Steam if you're interested. It helps a ton to get it out there. That's all from me. Thanks for watching the video, and give it a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it.